Well, guys, it's that time of year again, time for another Girl Meets World Halloween episode. But the question is the third time really the charm? Let's find out. Hey guys, camera for Girl Meets World, Season 3, Episode 15, Girl Meets World of Terror 3. As you guys could imagine, I was not looking forward to this episode, of course. I really usually am not a huge fan of these episodes. I mean, the first one I thought was kind of fun, with them doing the 3 different stories, showing everyone's fear. But you all remember how much I hated last year's episode. I mean, I'm willing to admit it. That is an abysmal episode. But it's the only terrible episode the show has given us. And honestly, you guys haven't seen that episode, don't watch it. Honestly, do not watch it. That is not an episode to watch from Girl Meets World. I don't know what it was. It was the most ridiculous hodgepodge of just random scenes that didn't all go together. And honestly kind of just felt like an SNL sketch at points. It really did. I really thought it was really dumb. It just did not feel like Girl Meets World. It felt like basically every other Disney Channel show that I can't stand. However, I was willing to give this one a chance because I knew what the plot was. I knew what this one was going to be. And I'm like, okay, maybe finally they'll be able to give me something. And after watching this episode, what did I think? Finally, they got it right. This is how you do a Halloween episode. This episode is the right amount of quirky, silly, heartwarming, but it also has really great messages and really great hearts and just overall a really great it's very ground as well. That's something that the other 2 specials didn't really have. They were very cartoony, very silly, and yes, this episode does have that, but it also has this fantastic message and this fantastic, just really did a great job with that. But let's just get in this episode, which there isn't a ton to say about, oddly enough. You guys would expect me to say a lot, but there's really not a ton to say because this was an alternate reality episode. I usually hate these kind of episodes. I'm not gonna lie. I usually do. I think it's a dumb tactic. I think that it's a way to do a filler episode, and a lot of shows, I just get kind of pissed off when they do it. I will admit, though, the Boy Meets World alternate reality episode is one of the best the show has ever given us. And I don't know if this was as good, I will say that, but this was, like I said, the best of the 3, and they actually did do a great episode. So we start off in our usual setting. We see Corey's talking to the class, and he's talking to them about, Halloween and how Halloween is connecting to everything. And Riley and Maya are, Farkle, Lucas, and Zay, and Smackle, they're officially, which it was great to see the entire crew for once. I mean, like I said, there's been episodes where we haven't seen all of them, so it was cool to see all of them together. Because it seems like every other episode, there's like someone missing, and there wasn't this episode. I mean, Zay wasn't there for the majority of it, but we'll get into why. But they talk about how they're pretty much done with Halloween. They're at the point where they feel Halloween is dumb. They don't want to trick or treat anymore. They just don't want to celebrate. It's just kind of old to them. And honestly, I kind of get it. I mean, when you turn older, a lot of the magic of many holidays is gone. I mean, think about Christmas. Think about how excited you get on Christmas when you're, waking up to presents on Christmas morning when you're a young kid. When you're older and you realize that Santa and all the magic isn't real, it just kind of ruins the magic. I mean, Christmas is great, but it's just not as grand and as magical and as much of a spectacle as you thought it was. And that's kind of the case with Halloween. Now that they're older, they aren't really, into it, and they actually kind of are just skipping it, we see. We see that they're not really into it. Riley says they took a vote. Maya said that there was no meaning. And Farkle and Smackle get into this idea of chaos theory, which is the idea that basically one choice we make can have many, many severe consequences. And basically, through the magic of Halloween, which this is a very mysterious episode, and this is a very, suspend your disbelief episode, but unlike last year's episode, this one actually works because it doesn't take itself too seriously, and I did like seeing that. With this part it doesn't, at least. We see that Augie comes out and saying it's time for another Halloween tale, and everyone is upset, obviously, because they're just not into Halloween, they don't want to hear about it, and Augie tells us, what if the world we thought we know wasn't the world we knew? And we then see that through the magic of Halloween, we go to the scene of Riley, and when Maya first met her. And instead of the window being open, it's locked shut. It is completely locked. Maya will not come in and everything. She's locked out, and that was a great way to get us introduced to the episode. I really did like the way that was done. But then we cut to the present, and we see right off the bat things are really, really off. Riley is a lot more peppier and a lot more annoying than she usually is. I mean, if this was the Riley we got every episode, I really could not. I really would not be able to stand her. I mean, everything about this Riley is, just she's very peppy, but she's lacking the substance and just what we really do love about Riley, that grounded side of her, and that's not really here. I mean, we can see she really has no friends. She's friends with animals in her locker and this stuffed bear, and we see that she's just not really talking to many people. And then we get to the fact that Maya is actually not her best friend now that she didn't let her in. She's actually her bully, we see. She's talking to Riley, asking her about homework and everything. Then we see Lucas is a cowboy. We see that he's kind of like the outsider of the group. Farkle is back to his old hairstyle, when he would look like a kind of like nerdy in season 1, and Smackle looks like her counterpart when she had the braces, because who's there to give her a makeover? So this is the setup for the episode, and I think that was a very good way of setting this up. But now we get more into really what I really want to talk about. So after that, we go to another classroom scene, and things are very different. We see, because of the fact that, Riley and Maya aren't friends, Corey is a very traditional teacher. He's not bad, I wouldn't say, but he's very focused on facts and, events, and he's not really focused on, applying this to their lives, we see. He thinks that facts and events are the only thing. He's also wearing glasses, and he's not really the, teacher that we know him to be. I mean, they seem it's just a very generic teacher, and nothing really more than that. And it was interesting to see, because we're so used to seeing Corey being this impactful teacher, but he just wasn't here. And I thought it was interesting the way they did that, but we see right off the bat that Riley doesn't really know how to answer questions. She's treating Corey like she did in season 1, we see. Basically, again, facts and dates, that's all he really does remember. So there's not really much else going on there. We see that Lucas is very quiet. I mean, things are just really off. And Farkle is doing Farkle time, we see. Back to season 1 when he made that noise that I couldn't stand. And I will admit, Farkle, they did kind of make fun of it a bit, the way that was done, but it was funny. I thought it worked for the most part. I thought they did a good job with that. This episode was wacky, but it was the right amount of wacky. It wasn't completely absurd. No one turned into a cartoon in this episode, so I was fine with that. I mean, last year's episode made me feel like I was, felt like an acid trip. It really did. This year's episode, it felt like maybe you were a little bit high, like, maybe you took, like, a little bit of drugs. I mean, I don't know anything about drugs. I've never taken drugs in my life, and I encourage you not to as well. If you do, whatever, but I'm just saying, this one's like if maybe you had a couple drinks and maybe you had like something like mixed with a little bit of weed or something. That's what this felt like. Not too trippy. And that's something I did like. It was a little bit trippy, but not too trippy. This one was just a little bit wacky. And I thought it worked really well for the most part. So we see after this is really when we get to the interesting stuff. We see Augie, he's narrating the episode, and we see Ava go to Topanga. Augie thinks it's the same thing, but he quickly starts to realize that no one is listening to him, and he doesn't know why no one is listening to him. Ava's talking to Topanga. He realizes that Ava's actually dating Doi, which that was very weird to see, which, yes, Doi is almost in this entire episode. Unlike last year, though, it wasn't annoying. I mean, Doi last year was straight up so annoying. I couldn't stand what they were doing with Doi, but they actually play into that in this episode, and I thought that was kind of funny the way they did that. But basically, Augie realizes that because of things being different, he is no longer born. He is no longer born. He is a ghost because he wasn't born, and that is a very good twist. That's something the show really hasn't ever done. They've never really reinvigorated Augie into the story. They never really did. Most times it's Augie telling us a story, and then we see, the story play out. They've never really done it this way, and I thought it was kind of cool the way they did that. So this gives Augie a personal mission to go on, and I didn't expect Augie to be the central character of this, but he really is, and we definitely do see that. So Augie is willing to basically turn everything around. We see back at school, Riley and Maya are talking and everything, and he's trying to get them to be best friends, but it just isn't working. They don't have that bond that they had in the first place, and I did really like the scenes between Lucas and Riley in this episode. If there is one complaint I have, is that I don't think they did enough with that. I will definitely say that. Lucas is very much an outsider here. He's there to protect Riley, and he's there because he doesn't like seeing people get hurt. He doesn't know why he doesn't like seeing people get hurt, but he knows he doesn't. And even though they don't have the bond that they do, he, for some reason, really does care about her. He doesn't know why, of course, because, again, they don't have that bond they have usually, but he knows that he does care about her, and I did like seeing that. Farkle and Smackle, on the other hand, there was this really great scene where they bump into each other, and Farkle's acting all nerdy. Smackle has like braces and a retainer, and Smackle asks him if they could ever be anything more than arch nemesis, and it doesn't seem like anything is really changing. We see, I thought that was interesting the way we saw that. Then we get to the really good stuff. The episode really starts to pick up once Maya asks Riley to confront her, because Maya has gotten a B- on her paper, and that's something that she's not used to. She doesn't understand why, and Riley says she thinks she's actually better than that. And she tells Maya she knows that something bad happened to her in her childhood, and Maya basically does admit that she doesn't want to be a bully, that this isn't really her. And this is where I really liked it, because instead of them just making Maya a bully, we see that Maya's just misguided here. She's been led into a dark corner because she didn't have Riley to rely on. Riley was the one that kept her grounded, and I've talked about this a million times. That's why Maya is who she is today. If she wasn't, I think she would be like this. She'd probably be, she'd be rebelling like every day, and they didn't really get too into that. I understand, this was more of a silly episode, but I did like seeing that Riley and Maya in the end do end up helping each other. Lucas comes by their side, and I thought that was really well done, the way that happened. And then Farkle and Smackle, they decide that they don't want to be, that they maybe do have some sort of a future together. And again, I think they did that pretty well. Yes, their stuff was a little bit silly, but I thought overall it was well done the way they did that. And by the end, we see that, Augie's ready to say goodbye to everyone, but then he realizes that he is in fact around in this life, and he's happy to see that. So I thought that was a good ending the way they did that. And then the end of this episode, I actually really did like. We see at the very end, we go back to that flashback where we do see that things are back to the way it was, which means that the cycle is continuing, and the next episode is going to be exactly the same. And I thought that worked, because obviously I don't want to see a show where it's like how it was in the last episode. I think it'd be dumb if they did that. And overall, I thought it was a very good ending overall. I thought there wasn't really a straight up message in this episode, but for the most part, it worked really well. I really did enjoy what we got here, I have to say. One quick thing they didn't really talk about. Oh, there was this great scene with Corey that I completely forgot about. There's a scene with Corey where Riley's there, and Corey feels like a changed man, because Riley talks about how maybe there is more than just facts and dates, and Corey writes on the board, Secret of Life, and that's how he really decides to become the teacher that we know him to be today. Just really subtle way to do that. I really love that overall. Really good stuff there. One quick thing, they actually were going to stay in this episode, and I don't know why they didn't do this. They cut it a scene, but apparently the reason that we never saw Corey and Topanga together in this episode is because in this universe, apparently those two got a divorce, and we don't know why they got a divorce, but that would have been interesting to see. I don't really think we needed to see that, but I kind of would have wanted to see that. I think it would have added to the overall emotional impact of this episode. But overall, I really enjoyed this episode overall. Like I said, this is how you do a Halloween episode. It was the right amount of quirky. It was the right amount of silly. And overall, like I said, it didn't take itself too seriously. It took itself seriously when it needed to, but it had fun with itself. And that's why this one actually really worked for me. And out of the three, this is the one I'm definitely going to watch back. I want to see him do more Halloween episodes like this and less like the one last year. And that's really all I have to say about this episode. Like I said, there's not a ton to say about it. It was a very basic episode. But let me know what you guys thought of this episode. Love to hear your thoughts on it. Did you like seeing a different kind of episode? Did you like? I thought the cast in general did a really great job at playing these more over the top and old, younger versions of themselves that we haven't see you in a while. But that's my review. Hope you guys enjoy it. I will see you guys in my next video. By the way, Girl Meets World once again isn't coming back to November 4th. Whatever. I understand why they did that. But, you know, they want to do a Halloween episode in October. I understand that. And they want a straight out season as well. There's 30 episodes again. So obviously they're going to take a while. That's my review. Hope you guys enjoyed it. We'll see you guys in my next video, which will be for this week's episode of Big Brother Over the Top. And I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.